Hello everyone, talking about the episode of my dog Tsulis, how my mother abused him by not taking him back to the vet when he needed a pin removed from his hip that was sticking out of his hip. Every time he moved, the pin moved, and it was living flesh that was being tortured by a piece of metal. The Aspca lady had come by probably to see me because I knew her, and saw the condition of the dog and took her to court. She beat the rap because the cops came in, the cops from Thorn'S Milk Bar, who used to come in there often. They testified for her, what a wonderful woman she was, you know, she was righteous, she did everything good, and blah, etc. All lies, but they didn't know any better. And so I weeded the rose, as I said, I weeded the rose garden. She complained about that the other members, my brother Jimmy and the other members of the household refused to weed the rose garden. I weeded, it took me 3 hours. Now it starts to rain. And Sulis had this old chain. This is a poor dog with a pin sticking out of his hip, out of his living flesh. A pin is sticking out of his hip. He's in the rain. And that chain, it was so old, that chain seizes up. I don't know if you've ever seen old chains. They crumple together, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller as they crumple together. And out in the rain, that chain crumpled smaller and smaller, and he was caught in the rain, and he couldn't get into the shelter of the garage where he was at this time. There was a garage and a garage door open. I kept going out every 15 or 20 minutes to unhook, to get the chain loose so he could go in the garage out of the rain. And I told my brother Jimmy and someone else that they should check up on him occasionally as well. Make sure he wasn't victimized that way, and they just looked at me like I was crazy, like it didn't matter. Like, how dare you ask us to go out in the rain and check on the dog? What do we look like? Your servants, or the servants of the dog? We are great human beings, and how dare you speak to us this way? And so I had to do it by myself. I had to keep going out and making sure he was okay. It was a great act of mercy, but when I think of this, I'll cry later. If I cry now, I'll screw up my face. When we were going to move, she never took him to the vet. He lived like, I don't remember how long, a month or more. It was time for us to move. It was time for us to move, and we got a house in Middletown, New Jersey, and we were about to move. We had several dogs, and they all had to be given to the dog catcher, and I know they would be 99% sure they would be euthanized, or, to put it bluntly, killed. I cried and cried and cried. But I will never forget poor Tsulis. See, I feel myself ready to cry. I will never forget poor Tsulis with the pin in his hip. When we got him off the chain, leaping up on the steps of the dog catcher's truck, one step at a time. And I knew as soon as they took him, as soon as he would arrive, he'd be lucky if he lived one day before they killed him, because he was injured like that, like they weren't going to fix him or help him, and nobody would adopt him unless it was a miracle. And those last moments, seeing him jumping up the steps to his doom, broke my heart. Now I'm going to tell you the next. My mother got off the hook with the Aspca because the cops came in and testified for her. And I'm going to tell you how she repaid the cops. And they were wonderful people. There was one in particular that we were all in love with, and he was probably the one, maybe, because he was our friend and he used to visit the house. Jim Dowd was his name. To be continued. I can't go on anymore.